Have you ever been told to mind your P's and Q's? Maybe a grandparent said it to you before a family dinner, or a teacher said it before a school trip. It usually means behave yourself, be polite, watch your manners. But have you ever stopped and actually thought about what those letters mean? Why P and Q? Why not mind your A's and B's or mind your X's and Y's? Today, we are digging into one of the strangest little phrases in the English language, right here on the lost history of everyday things. The phrase mind your P's and Q's is used all over the English-speaking world. Parents say it to children before they meet relatives. Teachers say it to their classes before assemblies. Bosses might say it before an important meeting with a client. It generally means pay attention to your behavior, speak politely, and do not embarrass yourself or anyone else. On the surface, it sounds simple enough. But when you actually try to trace where it came from, the answers get messy fast. And honestly, once you hear the theories, it does not seem to make any sense. Let's start with the most popular explanation, the one you will hear most often if you ask someone where the phrase comes from. Many people say it began in Old English pubs and taverns. Back in the day, bartenders would keep track of how much a customer had to drink by chalking marks on a board or a slate. The letter P stood for pint, and the letter Q stood for quart, which are both units used to measure beer and ale. According to this theory, the bartender would tell rowdy or careless customers to mind their P's and Q's, meaning pay attention to how many pints and quarts you have ordered, so you do not run up too large a bill or drink more than you can handle. It is a charming story, and it does connect the letters P and Q to something real. But here is the problem. There is very little solid historical evidence that this is actually where the phrase came from. It sounds like the kind of explanation people repeat because it feels satisfying, not because anyone has proven it. Another theory takes us into the world of old print shops. Before computers and modern printing, books and newspapers were made using individual metal letters, arranged backwards, one at a time, by a person called a typesetter. Because the letters were reversed to print correctly on paper, the lowercase letter P and the lowercase letter Q looked almost identical to each other, just mirror images. It would have been very easy for a young apprentice to mix up a P for a Q or a Q for a P while setting the type. According to this theory, a printmaster would warn a new apprentice to mind your P's and Q's, meaning pay close attention and do not confuse these two letters, or you will ruin the whole page. This explanation has a certain logic to it, since it is tied to something specific about how those two letters look. But once again, historians cannot say for certain that this is where the everyday saying about manners actually began. It could be a separate use of a similar phrase that later got mixed together with the manners meaning. There is also a theory involving dance instruction, of all things. In old French dance classes, some instructors are said to have told students to watch their pieds, meaning feet, and their cues, meaning the wigs or pigtails worn at the time, so that a dancer's feet and hair would not become tangled or messy during formal dances. Over time, some people believe pieds and Q's got shortened in casual speech to something that sounded like P's and Q's, and the phrase crossed over into English with a similar meaning of being careful and proper. Honestly, when you hear this one, it does not seem to relate to anything I can understand. Feet and wigs turning into two random letters of the alphabet is a big leap, and there is no strong documentation proving that this is truly the origin either.
Then there is a theory about children learning to write. If you have ever watched a child first learning the alphabet, you know that lowercase p and lowercase q are famously easy to mix up, since one is basically the other flipped around. Teachers may have told young students to mind your P's and Q's while practicing handwriting, meaning pay close attention to these two letters so you do not confuse them on the page. Some people believe this simple classroom instruction slowly grew into a broader saying about paying attention and being careful in general, which then expanded even further into a saying about manners and behavior. Yet another theory suggests the phrase may have started as a shortened version of please and thank you. Some word historians think that mind your P's and Q's could be a playful abbreviation, almost like a wordplay version of mind your pleases and thank yous, since please starts with a P sound, and thank you was sometimes written or said in ways that emphasized a Q sound in older dialects. This theory ties the phrase most directly to its modern meaning about politeness. But it is also considered one of the weaker explanations by many language experts, since the sound connection feels like a stretch. So, which theory is correct? Honestly, nobody knows for certain. Language historians and dictionary experts have gone back and forth on this question for a very long time, and no single explanation has ever been fully proven. Some experts lean toward the printing theory because it is tied to something concrete. Others prefer the tavern theory because pints and quarts were such a common part of daily life in Old England. And plenty of people simply enjoy the dance and wig theory because it is such an unusual and memorable story. What we do know is that the phrase, "mind your P's and Q's," has been used in English since at least the late 1700s, showing up in old letters, plays, and written records from that time. Wherever it came from, by then it was already being used the way we use it today, as a general reminder to behave properly and watch your manners. If we are being completely honest here, when you line up all of these theories side by side, none of them feel fully convincing. A phrase about pints and quarts in a pub does not obviously turn into a phrase about polite manners at a dinner table. A phrase about confusing letters while setting type does not obviously turn into a phrase about how a child should behave in public. And feet and wigs at a French dance lesson turning into an English idiom about good behavior is honestly one of the more confusing leaps in the history of any common phrase. It does not seem to make any sense, and it does not seem to relate to anything I can understand, no matter how many times you read through the different explanations. Maybe that is part of what makes this phrase so interesting. Unlike a lot of sayings that have one clear and well-documented origin, "mind your P's and Q's" seems to be a mystery that has never been fully solved, and different explanations may have blended together over hundreds of years of everyday use. What is clear is how the phrase is used today. Almost nobody who says "mind your P's and Q's" is thinking about pints of beer, wigs at a dance, or letters in a printing press. For most people today, the phrase has completely separated from any of these possible origins and simply means be polite, be careful, and be on your best behavior. It might be said to a child before visiting grandparents, to an employee before an important meeting, or to anyone who might need a gentle reminder to think before they speak or act. In that way, "mind your P's and Q's" joins a long list of everyday sayings whose original meaning has faded into the background, while the modern meaning has taken on a life of its own. It is a good reminder that language is always changing, and that the words we use every day often carry hidden histories we never think about. The next time someone tells you to mind your P's and Q's, you can smile a little, knowing that behind that simple reminder to behave is a genuine historical puzzle that has confused word experts for centuries. It is a small phrase with a surprisingly tangled story behind it. Thank you for watching this episode. If you have thoughts or suggestions for upcoming videos, please share them in the comments section. Thank you for being a part of this episode exploring the lost history of everyday things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep an eye out for future episodes exploring the history that mystifies us when we stop to think about it.